Okay, welcome everyone. Super exciting for the panelists here today and for everyone tuning in. Just to give a bit of background, if you're unfamiliar with who or what OWIFA is, the Ontario Women's Intercollegiate Football Association is a not-for-profit competitive women's flag football league for universities and colleges here in Ontario. It's what makes our league so awesome is the fact that we're unique. We're a student athlete run association for women or by women for women. So that's definitely a very unique component. And during our 2019-2020 season, we had over 400 athletes competing in our league and over 70 coaches, which is a huge leap in the game for here in Ontario. Just to introduce myself, I'm a PhD student in neuroscience at Western University, and I oversee the league as the commissioner, but I also have the luxury of working with an amazing executive team who's also tuning in here. They're active and we'll be chatting as well with everyone. And then of course we got Emily who helped put this event together and just helping us create a really top-notch experience for our athletes and of course our coaches. Definitely a key thing is career development, especially in lieu of not having a season. So I'll pass it back over to Emily and we'll just jump right into things. Yeah.
Thanks, Olivia. So hi again, everyone. My name's Emily. I'm a fourth year student at Queen's University. I'm studying health studies and concurrent education. And I'm also the Vice President External of Events of OWIFA. So our idea for this event was that in times like these where we are unable to get together and physically play, our league wanted to make sure that our athletes, coaches, and community members still felt connected to one another. So this event series, along with our virtual COVID Cup, is a way to keep our athletes engaged and to celebrate what would have been our 20, yeah, Olivia's pointing to it in our little background, what would have been the start of our 2021 season. So as many of our athletes are also graduating, we hope that this event will be a great way to explore opportunities in football and to focus on career development, like Olivia mentioned. So we are going to get right into a couple rapid fire questions, and you guys are welcome to answer on the poll that should pop up soon. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to call on our panelists as well to maybe answer some of these questions. You can use the reactions button at the bottom. That can pop up the thumbs up, the clapping, or you can answer them out loud if you would like. So, is this true? I would rather be on the sideline as staff than on the field. Is that true? No. Phoebe, how about you?
I think it's true now, definitely. I think there's nothing like working with a team and being a part of a team from that side of it, but very different to being a player.
Interesting. Okay. Are you worried that it'll be too hard to get a career started in football? This might be more directed to our participants here. Oh, but I'm seeing a lot of quite a few yeses, so that's something that we get to talk about later. Do you feel like you have a support system or mentor to help you in your career goals? That one can be for anyone. Tara, I see you nod.
Yeah, definitely. Being part of the BCCA now is definitely a place where I've seen so many different coaches from so many different fields that are outstanding mentors. Even though I'm a mentor myself, it's fantastic to share ideas with them.
Perfect. That's awesome. Great answer. Do you see yourself capable of coaching as a professional career? This can be for our audience members as well. Awesome. I'm seeing we're split half and half between yes and no. Awesome. For everyone, was football always your go-to sport? You can do thumbs up or thumbs down for that one. I'm getting some thumbs downs. Cool. What's the next one? Oh, team offense over team defense. How do we feel about that one, everybody?
Defense. Let's go.
We got team D's here. Okay. Have you ever been mansplained before when it comes to a football concept? Yeah.
Doubt.
Awesome. Okay. And then while walking or running, do you prefer music or podcasts that you listen to?
I'm music, I'll be honest.
Music.
As am I.
Tara, you too? All right. Okay. Is Aaron Donald in your top 5 NFL athletes?
Yes. MVP all the time.
All right. And then last question, cardio over weights?
Wait. Yeah, that's it, Tara. Let's go.
We got 2 weights. Awesome. Okay, so I believe Olivia can share the results of the poll. So get your last answers in if you haven't already, so that everyone can see. All right, perfect. So I think we have a lot of players here today, so everyone would rather be on the field. We're all missing it too right now, I'm sure. A lot of people worried about it being too hard to get a career started in football. Oh, perfect. We all have good support systems, still split 50-50 for coaching. We have a lot of people whose go-to sport wasn't originally football. We have a lot of team offense. Sorry to our panelists who are both team defense. Most people have been mansplained. Music is winning for music or podcasts. We're split pretty evenly for over Aaron Donald. And then we got lots of weights. Perfect. All right. Thanks everyone for participating in our little rapid fire icebreaker, and I'll throw it over to Olivia.
All right, so super excited to just have a conversation here. I'm just going to preface it that Dr. Welter will be joining us a bit later. She just had an overlap with another event that got pushed a bit later. So she will be joining us. And of course, we want to really get an idea of who you are, your background, and how your career really started and got you to where you are today. So just give us a bit of background as to both of you. We think that it's best to hear exactly from our panelists as to their careers because you know yourselves best. So we want to hear it from you exactly. I'll start off with Phoebe.
Sure, and thank you guys so much for having me. I feel so excited to be here with you guys again. And I've loved looking at the chat and seeing the different places that are being represented. Poland, Mexico, of course, England, let's go. But also like contact flag, players, coaches. I mean, it's really cool how far this is reaching. You know, it's really exciting. It just really brings together the whole football family that we're creating. So well done to you guys. In terms of my journey, so it has not been exactly A to B, right? And I think some of us will probably be in that same boat where we don't always end up where we think we're going. So for me, I started actually with a career in horses. That was always what I thought I'd be doing my whole life. And I kind of planned my life towards that. But when I moved over to the UK and got involved in American football, that was pretty much life-changing for me. You know, I always say when you're out of your comfort zone, you're so much more willing to take risks. And that big step, that big move for me just made me not afraid to fail. And when I got involved in football after my first few practices, even though I'd never really played or followed the sport in the States that much, I knew then that that's the career that I wanted. I didn't know what it looked like, but I knew that I needed the sport in my life. So I continued with my horses career for the next year, but actually after that got involved in personal training and strength and conditioning. And I thought that that would be the best way for me to be able to still be involved with the sport, kind of make my schedule around football. And I made that really kind of clear decision in my life that I had reached that fork in my road and this was a new direction for me. So being able to play and having dual citizenship in the UK, being able to play for Great Britain has been incredible. But I also knew I wouldn't be able to play forever. So I made that decision a bit early on, obviously whilst I was still playing, whilst I still am playing, that I wanted to give back and get involved in coaching because the sport, I'm sure for a lot of us, you know, sport has given us so much, whether it's just feeling confident and empowered or the social group, I really wanted to give back. So at that time, I was definitely not confident with the sport in terms of a coaching side of things. So I thought I'll get involved with youth because they're really not that intimidating. So I got involved with youth coaching and really just built my way up from there. Was able to then go and got a guest coaching internship out in the States with University of Laverne, kept networking, and I'm sure there's a lot of people and that will touch on it, but we have a women's careers forum within the NFL, and we've just had the 5th one, I think, gone by now. And that's pretty much become like a sisterhood essentially. And they take applications every year, not just for coaches, but also for if you're at strength and conditioning, analytics, scouting, whatever it is that you want to be involved in. And they really opened up the door, at least for a lot of us, in terms of what opportunities are out there and what we could potentially do within the sport. So my coaching career and my playing career continued. And then I applied for the Bill Walsh Diversity Fellowship. And for me, that's what got me into the Buffalo Bills. That's what got my foot in the door with them. And I've just continued my coaching career since then. And I just feel very fortunate to have met some really incredible people along the way.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you just got a new linebacker coach position, right? Out overseas.
Yeah, definitely. So I will be heading out to Germany in a month and a half to be coaching linebackers and assistant DC. So I'm definitely very pumped for that. I love a challenge. I think this will be a new challenge. So yeah, I can't wait to get out there. I speak no German, but we'll figure it out. We all speak football language. That's what matters.
No, that's awesome. It's great to see how just football has traveled over waters and it's now become such a universal sport. And of course, we're going to turn it over to Tara to talk about her experience. And it's nice because this is a Canadian coach out of Quebec. So it's really great to hear someone from our side as well that isn't always US focused in a sense.
Thank you. So first off, I just want to say thanks to everybody who's here and here to listen, here to learn. It's very exciting to be here. I know you and I have connected recently, Olivia, and it's like, I was an Ontario player back in the day, and to come full circle, be back here now as a coach is really awesome. To talk about my career, I was a all-sport athlete all through high school and then into CEGEP. I was playing volleyball actually when I got asked to start playing flag. I had never played, like Phoebe, I had never played before, and said, okay, why not? Another sport to challenge me and see how well I can do. So essentially, I played for 3 seasons, had an amazing time, excelled at the sport, and just fell in love. And then after I graduated, I was fortunate enough to be an assistant coach for a couple of seasons with my same team, while playing in Ontario at the elite level, playing at a senior level with women that, defined the game to all new heights for me after college, which was, kind of mind blowing in itself. And at the same time, I took on the role of becoming a referee. So I learned the game from the other side as well. So the rules, the strategies, so on and so forth, just understanding better how the game worked and how to, be successful at that game. So after that, I took a bit of a break, to be honest, in terms of coaching. I was only assistant for a couple of years at that time. But it took about 15 years before I came back and got another opportunity as assistant coach. Which then led me to be getting offered the head coaching position at my alma mater, all because I kept in touch with my head coach at the time. He was ready to retire, and he knew how much I loved the game. He knew how much I wanted to be back at the school that got me started. And so essentially I coached with him for a year, and then, things took off from there. And I'm really fortunate that I've had a great group of assistant coaches that have gotten me to this level now. I feel like you don't get here by yourself. And, the selections that you make in relation to your assistants are really the ones that build you up and, allow you to be great. But it's not just you as an individual, it's a team effort. And that's why it's a team sport.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point that you've made there about establishing those connections and maintaining them, because I think that has helped shaped many careers, or based off of what you've shared. So I guess for our audience listening in, how might you suggest ways to create connections and network and find ways to really get your footing into that door, that you may not, that may be more open now than it was then, but you'd also continue to suggest to those listening in? And I'll direct it to Phoebe.
Well, so I'd say, I mean, definitely agreed, right? Networking is by far probably the biggest side of football. And the more you get involved in it, the more you realize how important that network is for you in a couple senses. I mean, even so, when I first got involved in football, I felt almost like an outsider in the sense that all these coaches would be talking about, oh, I worked with this coach and over here, and I know this coach over there, and I didn't have that to relate to. But for us, like, just like you have coaching conventions all over. I mean, I started going to our coaching conventions, and I mean, even at first, there was probably only me and maybe one other female there, but actually that almost helped me because people want to talk to you. They're curious. The other coaches, they're curious, like, okay, you're willing to put yourself in this position. And you can really just get, be open with people. You're all there to learn, share ideas. People are really open to that, the kind of chalk talk on the side as well. But I mean, literally just keeping in touch with anybody. If someone says to you, someone gives you their number and says, or email and says, hey, get in touch with me, take them up on that. They're putting themselves out there for you. They're not just saying it as a nice gesture. And I think that's something that we probably need to do a better job of, when we'll actually just attack that and really put ourselves out there. But stay in contact with people. If you go out to a program and visit them, give a handwritten letter. That says a lot to someone. It's really a thoughtful touch, and they'll kind of remember you a bit better. But people want to get to know who you are, and putting your best foot forward is a lot of times just being yourself. You don't need to be someone different, but making that impression, just bringing that great positive energy to the table, and people will want you around.
Really well said. I think that's a great way to start off this conversation. I'll let Tara comment too.
Yeah, I definitely mirror what Phoebe said. At the same time, I think that early in my career, I actually made that mistake with relation to networking. I came out and I was, the only woman coaching, only Black female coaching. And I just kind of kept to myself. I felt like everybody was my enemy. Everybody was my rival. And I just wanted to beat everybody. But the truth be told, as I've grown in my career, we've noticed that it doesn't work that way. In every off season over the last, I would say 5 years, coaches within our divisions were having conversations, and we're sharing ideas on how to improve, one, our program, two, our athletes. And, when male coaches are knocking down my door, asking me to have my team come and scrimmage against them, at that point, I feel like we're respected. We've, done something to help our program, but at the same time, they want to be able to improve their program as well. And that speaks volumes to what we've built as a community overall.
Yeah, great point. And we have some questions from the audience. I'll let Emily take over in a second, but I think we'll talk about allyship a bit too, about supporting you all in your roles, et cetera, and then how you've just kind of taken from there. But I'll let Emily take over.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for your answers, and thanks, Olivia. Our chat is bumping right now with some questions, so I just want this to be as audience directed as possible. So I'm gonna call on Shannon Kennedy. Would you like to ask your question verbally, or do you want me to do it for you?
I'm good to ask, if that's okay.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you. So my question was, what level of knowledge around things like scheme or positional technique do you think is needed to get that kind of entry-level coaching job? It's one of the biggest things. It's like, I don't know what I don't know. So it's like, how do I kind of, how much do I need to know, and things like that?
I'll take it, I guess. Hi, Shannon. Great to hear from you. I think that's actually a question that we all deal with. And one of the things I almost think back to is, well, a lot of these people that are coming in as like GAs, as graduate assistants, they don't even necessarily have any football knowledge, but they're getting involved in the sport. So it's a really, I think it's a really tough thing to measure, and maybe Tara will have a better answer than me, but I think if you just have a base knowledge in terms of like the play of football, when you're there, you're going to learn so much just by being around it. And, you know, I think an interesting part of it is from the European side is we're a little bit behind, but we're also not necessarily as up to speed with the terminology either. For me, I think the terminology is more of the hurdle than necessarily the scheme. Every team's going to have its own scheme, and you'll be able to learn that way. You know, they'll have different drills and they'll have different techniques, but I've found in my experience, it's actually that terminology side of things that really challenges me. And like when I went to Buffalo, and even when I was out with at Bryant University, that was one of my things. I was like, I need to make myself a glossary. I need to make something so that I can stay on top of what people are saying, because at first I couldn't even ask a question because I really couldn't figure out what all the different terms were, if that makes sense.
That's great. Thank you so much. Tara, do you have similar thoughts?
I can add to that actually. Hi Shannon, nice to meet you. So for me, it's a little bit different. You know, ever since I got immersed in football, I've literally immersed myself in football. So, you know, I go through film, I rewatch games, I'm on YouTube, you know, 7-on-7, 5-on-5, 8-on-8. You know, I'm talking about football with my coaches. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Did you see that game? Did you? And it's all aspects of football. So it's not just flag, it's not just touch, it's tackle, it's everything to just understand and see the game as a whole. You know, but I also feel like the rules are a key piece of understanding what level you're going to be at, because once you know that, you're going to continue to build your sports acumen. And so at that point, it's just going to slowly flow and come naturally to you and become second nature. So I can literally have a conversation with anybody at this point about football, and it doesn't matter if they're male or female. They respect the fact that the first thing that I say about the game, I know the game. So then they're just like, oh, okay, because their initial perception was, oh, this is a girl, so she doesn't really know, or she might know. And then something comes up that, you know, makes it so they know.
Thank you so much. Both brilliant answers. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shannon, for your question. I'm glad that you felt comfortable to ask it over video. And thank you so much to our panelists for your wonderful answers. I'm going to ask Esther if she would like to ask a question.
Yes, I do.
A couple.
So actually, I have two questions, but I'm going to go to the first only. So first of all, hi, I'm from Brazil, so it's great to be here with you all. And my question is about your transition to coaching. Like, did you feel that you had, okay, I really don't have a lot of time playing, so I'm going to move to coaching, or like, coaching is the future for me as career, so I'm going to stop playing for a bit and focus on that? How was this process for you?
I could take that one to start. I think for me, the transition kind of happened fluidly, in the sense that, you know, you play the game and you can only play the game for so long. You know, your body tells you at a certain point you can't play at that level anymore. So what's next, because you love the game so much? So for me, that was an easy kind of transition into coaching. Like I said, I had gone into reffing, so I learned the other side of the game as well. And then this just brought an additional strategic point and level to the game for me, where I could still be extremely involved, almost like a player, but on the sideline, whereas I could help build those young minds, help build that confidence, help these young girls understand what it is to walk onto a field and own it and be proud of what they're doing and know that they belong.
Yeah, and I love that completely, because I'd be very similar in that sense too. I guess for a while I tried to push off having to make that decision, if I'm being honest. You know, I think a lot of us want to keep playing because we don't start until so much later in life. But at least now with the sport being offered earlier, I think at least it makes us feel a bit more like we fulfilled our career. But I found that doing them simultaneously, or whether it is getting involved in reffing as well, I think that only helps you as a player because you're understanding the game, and it almost slows the game down for you as a player. But it's not easy. I know it's not an easy transition, especially if you're going from player to coach within your own team as well, because that's a really unique dynamic to have teammates who now you are kind of not calling authority over, but that relationship has to change. And I think there's things that you have to do as a person that just separate that familiarity just a little bit. But otherwise, I mean, if you want to play, keep playing as long as you can, because, you know, like everyone's been saying, we don't have this game forever. But if you want to be very serious as a coach in terms of taking it to college or to the NFL, you really do have to make that decision, because there's not necessarily as much time. You can always hop on a flag football team, which is a great option, you know, if you get some off time, but the dedication that, you know, it takes to be a player and be at your highest level as an athlete, you know, you don't even get that much time to really work out during a football season as a coach. So I think there's some kind of mental steps that you have to take, but yeah, play as long as you can. And if coaching is your future, and if that's really what you want to do at the highest level, then start making some next steps that are going to put you on route to your dream. And I know it's tough, but I promise you it'll be so worth it in the long run.
Thank you. Loved it.
That's awesome. Thanks, Esther, for that question. And thank you for both of your answers as well. I feel like that is something that many of our graduating athletes are definitely coming up on right now, is our choice whether to continue within the sport of football or to pursue other things. Because unfortunately for us, there might not be as many opportunities for playing. But yeah, excellent answers to the both of you. Cass from OWIFA, would you like to ask your question?
Of course. Can everyone hear me okay just before I?
Yep, you're good.
Awesome, perfect. So especially over the past year, obviously with COVID, we haven't been able to play, but even beforehand, myself and I'm the president for that team, and I often found that we had naturally talented players, and we would do our best to run practices the best that we could with the resources we had. But I just felt that we could do so much more, but I didn't know, and our coaches really didn't know how to kind of like take it to the next level. How do we get over that slump where, you know, we've tried everything, but we're still not improving beyond the natural athletic talent of the team, and, you know, past the chalk talks and things that we'd have on campus.
I guess a question I would have to you then, are you finding it's a motivation situation, or is it, what do you feel is actually like holding you back from that? I mean, so you're doing practices and you're doing some chalk talks as well, you said?
Yeah, so this is now our second season where the school has officially recognized us as a team. We finally got like official field time. We got, you know, our own like spot on campus to have like our like whiteboards and stuff like that. We don't have a locker room. There's just not enough space on campus for us. But basically we do have like a motivational issue. I think my other teammates in the chat may agree with that. We do have a motivational issue to kind of just get our players to come out and to practice, since we aren't a varsity team. There, aside from playing on weekends, there's not really a like, what is the after grad, like what are we going to do? And then also with the like, our coaches aren't like official coaches. There are men like off our men's team who are volunteering their time and using their expertise from tackle football to coach women who either play rugby or some other varsity sport or have never played the sport at all. And they're just like, okay, like throw on some cleats and let's go on a field and see what we can do. And we have improved quite a bit over the past year. And I think a lot of other teams in OWIFA have as well. But I find that aside from the motivational issue, there's also like, what other, like, where do we get the resources, or what do you do in that kind of like, because a lot of our coaches are also really young, second, third year coaches who, you know, don't have a lot of experience themselves. So I'm not sure if that's a really good way to like narrow down the question. It was kind of more of like a
No, you're good. Don't worry. I think there's probably a few different things here. It sounds like it's probably going to have to be more player led, in terms of the motivational piece. So just examples we've had is we actually made practice. So this is talking about in the UK, for some of the women's teams I've been a part of, is we would make practice also be social at the end. So we'd all go for coffee afterwards. And truthfully, that kind of increases the participation to the practice because we love the social side of the game. You know, you make your football family. I think also off the field, I know people are kind of zoomed out right now, but there are so many great clinics. I know Huddle just did a wonderful, their Blitz clinic, which is online education. But in this kind of Zoom era we're in, like information is so much more accessible. People are so much more accessible as well. And almost going back to the question with Shannon earlier, a lot of it probably will have to be this self-discovery, but maybe this is a great time to kind of empower some of the females on your team who are looking to take on that next coaching role. They don't have to know the X's and O's and all of that to look up some drills and to understand why you might be doing something. But, you know, I understand with the other coaches wanting to get you out there, but, you know, I think if you guys can really take control on this and almost, you know, have when the other coaches come in, they almost become the assistants in a way because you guys are running this full time on your own. It probably isn't as helpful as it sounds, but I think that there's got to be a way to, you know, refine that motivation, even if it's a friendly to go towards or play against other people locally, because I know a lot of people are missing having games right now too. We do quizzes online, anything to kind of keep, it can be quizzes about football or, you know, just fun quizzes about your teammates, just lots of little things like that, potentially that could keep you engaged. Tara, you might have a better answer than that.
Honestly, not really. I feel like, you know, it's definitely been like everyone's shook because, you know, there's no football. And everyone's zoomed out as well because that's all we do. But, you know, I think one thing that's worked for my team is, as Phoebe said, you've got to engage them by like maybe having individual, you know, conversations with them. Yes, on Zoom, but, you know, find out what they're passionate about, find out why they started playing to begin with, you know, so then you assess if they really want to be there. Because, you know, you play the game because you love it, you know, you still play the game after you've graduated and further into your career, even though you get slower and so on and so forth, because you love it, not because you're getting paid for it, right? And that's why a lot of times it's so much more enjoyable to watch NCAA versus NFL. You know, no offense, Phoebe. But at the same time, you know, and then get them maybe to do some fun challenges. Like, you know, we just got our team on a little workout program and, you know, we've challenged them to videotape, you know, pick a buddy, videotape yourselves doing the workout, post it up on our private page, you know, just different things like that. You know, make sure you beat your time. You've got to train 3 times a week, so make sure each time is better than the other one. Different things like that have, you know, gained some engagement for our players this past season.
Awesome. Thank you so much for providing just general advice and tips on how to do that, especially like moving into the like upcoming season. We are losing a lot of graduating players. I know a lot of AWIFA teams are in that boat right now where a lot of our senior players are going, and it's going to, I as president, and I'm sure there's other execs from AWIFA, not AWIFA, but also like other teams here, that I want to help like nurture the younger students to like take over these leadership roles once we move on. And so that definitely helps. I'll be able to pass that on to the team. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Cass, for your question. And thank you so much for your answers. I think a lot of us are experiencing a potential slump with some of our teams right now, especially just with the pandemic. And like, I really liked what you said, Phoebe, the zoomed out. I feel that especially with all the Zoom meetings, but this is a great way to get everyone participating from all over the world. As you can see, I see that Dr. Welter has joined us, but I'll just give her a minute to
call Canada.
Pardon?
Call for Canada.
Oh yeah. I'll just give her a minute.
Hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good. I'm sorry, y'all. I had a few charity events to participate in. You can see you literally pulled me right out of the game. And that is how much this means. thank you all for what you do for the game. It's an honor to be here with you.
No problem. Thanks so much for being with us today, Jen. Do you want to give a little intro about your position, what you're currently doing, how you got there, etc.?
Yeah, for sure. So, like many of you, a love of the game got me into it. I was blessed to play about 14 years women's tackle football. 10 years of that was with the Dallas Diamonds. 2 times on Team USA in 10 and 13, so 2 gold medals. And then I transitioned into the men's game in 2014, becoming the first female to play running back in men's pro football. Then from there, being on the same game and or being on the same field and loving the same game, I impressed their head coach, who asked me to coach the Revolution the following season. So that was my entree into coaching. And from the Revolution, I ended up joining the Arizona Cardinals 2015, becoming the first female to have a coaching position within the National Football League. Since that time, I fielded Team Australia as their head coach, coached with the Atlanta Legends in the Alliance game, and founded Gridiron Girls, which we do programs obviously all over the world, getting girls onto the game and into the field, because as y'all know, we do this game and we do it well. We just need the skills to do it. We need the coaching. And that's one of the things I saw not only around the US, but globally, is there's such a hunger for the game. We gotta give the girls the tools to be great at it and never feel like they're at a deficit stepping into that game.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction. It's actually kind of crazy that resume and CV you've built up over the years working as a coach. For those that are coming from a university or college background, a lot of the question is, how has that experience or your own education shaped you into the career that you have today? Did you expect that your PhD, for example, would have you end up in football? And are you applying it to this day?
Okay, so first of all, the PhD goes into everything I do, right? Understanding people and the way we think and how we can bring the best competitive elements out of everybody. It's different in every situation, but it's absolutely a strategic advantage in every situation. Now, I did not get my master's in sports psych and my PhD in psychology imagining that I could coach, because there was nobody I could look at and say, I'm going to do what she's doing, right? But what I did know is I had great practical experience being one of the best players in the world. And if I put it within education, then I would be a unique value proposition to the sport, right? I would have the theory and practice. And, you know, I could bring that game within the game understanding to every situation. Funny thing about it, I mean, I was actually coaching coaches on coach-athlete relationships and feedback, and, you know, where teams were breaking down, how to build a better team, improving team culture. That was my business before I ever even, you know, stepped into the men's game. So I instinctively kind of said, no, like, I can't do that. And thankfully, Wendell Davis, who was the first coach who hired me, said, not a lot of guys are going to give you this opportunity, and you're taking this job. And in fact, he took it on my behalf. And that's a really important message about allyship, right? It is important to have people who see you regardless of what might not check a box of common, right? And put you in positions and help you succeed in them. Because though women may not project themselves into situations as much as men will, once we get into them, we certainly will not fail.
I love that. And I think that's something that really, really should resonate with this group, especially because a lot of us are actually still playing the game. We're fortunate enough to have those opportunities. So to be able to, one, leverage your education, have that kind of back up the athleticism that you have to apply into a future career in the game is super, super important. And then, of course, using those allies and allowing them to at least, one, recognize your potential and what you have, as well as help you get into those roles. So I want to redirect it back to both Phoebe and Tara as well, to ask you both just kind of the skills that you would want to highlight. Like, really, if you were applying for a coaching job, what would you say are the top skills that you've learned either through your education, through your careers, to leverage the jobs that you want in coaching? And I'll start with Phoebe.
Thanks. It's a really great question because there are a lot of intangibles that kind of are the skills that you end up using more than anything. But I mean, I think the ability to be adaptable, which I think right now we're all doing a really great job of, um, organizational and preparation. Those are probably the other two key skills. Um, I went to school for equine business management. I'm not quite using anything horse related anymore, but yeah, exactly, Jen. But yeah, I'd say probably those are the best ones. But also, I guess finding a way to the interpersonal skills, right? The way that you're able to communicate with your players and the way that you're able to communicate with your staff and the other coaches, those ones are really key because those relationships are so unique. And it kind of goes back to what Dr. Jen was saying is before, like you need to be using almost those like psychology skills and reading body language, and you need to be able to do all of that. So I mean, even if you look at the roles of what a coach is and what they do, I mean, there's a million different hats that we wear. Your mentors, your advisors, you're actually, there's probably 10 different things I could think of that you have to do. So you have to be really great at also being able to separate the personal and the emotional side of things and putting yourself in the business side of things too. So I know it's not a great answer, but I think it's almost a lot deeper and a lot more complicated than here are a couple of really good skills.
Tara, did you want to add to that?
I think Phoebe actually said most of it, and I think Dr. Jen's going to say the exact same thing because I've seen her nodding there too. Like we all, believe that that's the way to go. I know that for me, I can tell you that my coaching style has changed from when I started to just this year, and players have come back who've graduated 3-4 years ago. And they're like, Coach, you never let us get away with that kind of stuff. What happened? And I said, well, things have changed. Kids are different and you have to adapt to that. So, if I have to sit back and spend 2 hours having conversations about the players' feelings versus being on the field, trying to drill in drills to them so that we can have a better practice next time, that's what I have to do. And, I may not have believed that in the beginning, but now things have changed. So I continue to adapt. We continue to grow. We take the feedback that we get year over year, and we just want to be better.
Yeah, Dr. Welter, did you want to add as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really thankful for Daryl Drake, who was a receivers coach when I got to the Cardinals. And the best advice he gave me was, Doc, I've been coaching longer than you've been alive. So there are things that I'm going to know that you couldn't possibly know. But your PhD and your sports psychology background brings something to this team that we don't have if you don't bring it. And so be confident in who you are and what you bring to it. There are things we can teach you. There are things you can teach us, but bring you to that equation. And take that time to really get to know your players. And that's one of the things that Bruce Arians always said about me is that I had the ability to read guys' eyes, right? And that was knowing what one guy needs from one day to the next and what he might need 1 minute to the next and how different players needed different things and to facilitate that conversation. Because you can't teach someone if you can't reach them, and your relationship and your ability to pick up on things. Look, I can correct any technique, right? You have to trust me for me to be able to do that. So having that trust and foundation of the relationship, which is interpersonal, which is psychology, man, that's everything. And that's still, if you ask players about me today, that's what they say.
This is all excellent advice. As someone who wants to go into teaching, a little different than coaching, but same idea. All of this talk about the interpersonal relationships is absolutely resonating with me so much. I'm sure it is as well with all of our audience who is looking into a career in coaching. I'm going to take another question from our audience. Tamara, would you like to come up and ask your question?
Yeah, sure, I can.
Perfect.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time. This has been super, super helpful so far. The question that I have is around kind of how you decided that coaching was the path for you? Was it the initial plan? Like, what did that transition look like? And this is coming from someone who is currently a graduate student working towards one area, but looking at kind of what does that decision process look like in terms of pivoting into a coaching role?
I'm happy to go. So I would say that I first off never really saw myself within the sport, let alone coaching the sport. And I think it almost becomes a natural progression in terms of, going from playing and then getting involved in more coaching. And it was when I started coaching the men's team. And for me, actually, I went and did this 2-week internship at Laverne, and it was all encompassing, right? It's a D3 school, but you still get that 24/7, especially in spring ball experience. And that was what really struck the passion for me. Having that experience, just like throughout college or throughout high school, sometimes you get to go off and do internships to see if it's a career you're interested in. That's almost what that felt like in a way. I was able to immerse myself completely in this environment for 2 weeks. And you can either love it or you could hate it, being honest. So for me, I absolutely loved it. And it was that kind of moment that made me think this is what I want to do as a career path. And truthfully, saying it out loud and saying it, I'm a big believer now of kind of speaking it into the future. But I was able to say, look, I want to be an NFL coach, whatever that looks like. I want to make sure that I can coach at the NFL in that level. And once I said that, it was almost like everything I did was putting into place those steps to try and get there. And I didn't mind how I got there. And I think you have to be flexible and you have to be open to taking these opportunities. And, kind of off of that. So I did training camp with the Bills. I was literally on a flight back to the UK, got an email from a coach out at Bryant University saying, hey, do you want to come do this with us? We had our Europeans for flag in Copenhagen. I flew straight from Copenhagen to Rhode Island to then go coach. And I got no money. I had what they called like bulldog bucks, was, $500 and meal plan for the season, lived in my head coach's basement. But you have to be willing to take that risk, and you have to be willing to put in that work as well, because that's part of becoming a coach. That's, working your way from the bottom up is a really big part of it. And it really builds on your story, but it also builds on you as a human. It builds your character and it builds your resiliency. And I think just doing that was just part of the process. And I'm so glad that I did that. But it was definitely a combination of, first off, do I like this enough that I want to do it full time? Yes. Awesome. Secondly, am I willing to do whatever it takes? Am I willing to take any opportunity and create my own opportunities in order to get there?
Amazing. Thanks, Phoebe. Tara, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. So, it's a great question, Tamara. And I think that we all kind of have the same ideas of what's next and what to do and why to do it. And you really have to, like, if you're located in Canada, I would say that, it's a very different reality than it is in the US. And, we don't do it for money. And I don't want to say that because they get millions of dollars in the US, but, CFL, NFL, we all know the facts, right? But you do it because there's an underlining reason. Like, you have passion for building strong females, you have passion for giving back to the community, you have passion for the game overall and what that looks like. You want to be a role model, you want to be a mentor, you want your name or your legacy to stand for something. And it's just that piece that for me has been the driving force of why I continue to do it. And you're going to stumble, and you're going to, sometimes, a couple of years ago, I had a horrible season, and I really contemplated whether or not I was going to come back, but I took a step back to self-reflect, to also see why I chose to become a coach. And, then I just got rejuvenated, right? And things were a lot different the season after, to go undefeated. So you then realize, okay, this is why I've done this. It's not the only reason, but it was a great reason to come back and then just continue on and make a difference. So hopefully that helps.
Perfect. Thank you, Tara. And then Dr. Welter, I'm not sure if you're still there. Oh, yeah, perfect. Would you like to add your experience as well?
Sure. I mean, I think it's a really, I know that, Coach, you mentioned it's a different reason, but it's not. I mean, I played my whole career for $1 a game and took an opportunity with the Arizona Cardinals to change the trajectory of what is possible for women in football. And I didn't do it for money. I had to sell my house to go take it. So if there's a perception that the path to this is doing it because you want to be something that you're not, that's not what it is. It is the love of the game that drives us to do whatever we can in the game and around the game. And I know for me and for Phoebe and for so many doing it, like, to change what it looks like to have a woman in those situations and the access and opportunity that girls have. I founded Gridiron Girls, all the camps that we've done around the way. Like, I mean, I was paying for camps to get girls out on the field because it was the right thing to do. And I would figure out how to get one more camp. Who else wanted to host a camp? Who wanted to make this happen? How could we make it free for these girls in their community? Just hustle, love, and belief. And I believe when you do things for the right reasons, that more doors will open. When you get onto the field with other people who see your drive, see your talent, see your ability to break things down, good things will happen. I never believed that I could coach. I would not have said yes if someone hadn't said, you've got this, you're already doing this, right? The guys used to say I was like their little coach on the sidelines. And then, like, I would kind of look at them like, yeah, okay. Like, just because I knew he was trying to bait you in so he could beat you on the bootleg on the next play doesn't mean I'm your coach. Duh, it was, but I hadn't yet taken that leap in myself. And I think that that's a really important thing. The love and the passion will keep you in it, drive. And then, my philosophy has always been with football, the promise is to step up to every challenge the game put in my way. Most of the things that we're having opportunities to do for all of us as women in football didn't exist when I started playing. And so it really is the best time to be women in football because the future is all on this call, right? Like, you are the future, and what that future looks like, hey, we got to go get it.
Oh yeah, I love that. It's getting me
So helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're going to take one more question from the audience and then wrap things up just for the sake of time. So hopefully everyone can hang on, panelists, for a few more minutes. But Emily, yeah, go ahead. Who's the next person to ask a question?
Yeah, perfect. Randall, if you feel comfortable asking your question, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering what kind of resources or learning tools that you guys recommend. I know, Phoebe, I saw you answer that with Coach Tube and talking about using Google Drive. I think those are both great. But if there's anything that you recommend or any tools that you've used in the past.
I'm just going to add to that, especially for women trying to get into the game too. What tools can they seek out that they may not even realize is available to them? We'll start with Dr. Welter.
There are lots of tools. So for me, I love getting out and coaching with different teams and, getting on the field, whether it be camps or whatever, because every situation I'm in, I learn something and I want to take it with me. Or I learn like, ooh, that didn't work. Or how could I explain that better? One of the things that I think I'm good at is breaking things down. So I will look at how different people break it down. I will look at and read some of the most basic resources to say one tip, or are they breaking it down better? Because I believe in simplicity for the foundation, and then we can always go higher. But where I have seen women have trouble in the game is that a lot of people bring them at a point of entry that they don't have that foundation yet. So I am not kidding when I say I read lots of books that are supposed to be beginner books, and everyone makes me better at my game because it slows me down and then allows me to elevate back up quickly.
Yeah.
Amazing. Tara, if you would like to add to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's very true. You have to stay humble, even though you may have seen success within your own field. And as you continue to grow and as you continue to do this year over year, just remember that you're still growing and you continue to get better as, you know, you learn more, you meet different people, you meet different coaches, you go up a division, you drop a division. There's things that happen over the course of a season or a different, you know, a year that can change your trajectory. So you just need to keep an open mind to what's next and, you know, just educate yourself.
Amazing. And then lastly, Phoebe, if you'd like to add.
Sure. Yeah, I think completely agreed with both Jen and Tara, because football is almost like layers. You just got to keep building and building and building. One of the things I love to do is actually look at other sports and look at how other sports are, especially things like rugby, where you're involving in the tackle. Sometimes they have really good resources there that can kind of, you're still talking the same language, you know, you're still talking on fundamentals. A lot of countries now have apps. So I think USA Football have an app. I know British American Football, we now have an app where you can create your own drills and plans. It breaks down the kind of gameplay. You know, I think both the other coaches on here said about, you know, not being afraid of being a big beginner, because that will allow you to ask more questions. You know, reach out to teams. Teams are really open to having people out there and being around them in spring ball or, you know, whatever works for you. I think if you are looking to kind of go out to a team and learn, I know training camps and kind of closer to the season always sounds more exciting, but I promise you, you will have way more time with the coaches to ask them questions if you go during spring ball. They'll actually be able to sit down with you and go over X's and O's. I'm sure people like ourselves are always happy to help out and answer any questions or direct you to anybody that we know that could probably better answer things for you. But yeah, resources wise, I think other sports, looking at apps, looking at what videos are left over from conventions. A lot of times those are still kind of floating around, whether it's AFCA or again, like the Huddle Blitz. I mean, you know, those are really great resources that are free and they're right in front of us.
Great, thank you. Those resources are super important for a lot of us starting out on the coaching end of the game and that transition there as well. And unfortunately, I wish we could keep this conversation going for longer, but we do need to wrap up. But the key thing here is for our athletes and anyone tuning in to take something away from today. And I want to ask you each to just kind of end off with a piece of advice that you think could really aid our attendees in their pursuit of a coaching career. And just to also, because I know Dr. Welter is helping out with the charity event, I'll ask her to start off, and then you're welcome to head on out, Dr. Welter.
Thank you, and I apologize, guys. But I thought this was so important. I didn't want to miss out, even though the commitment. But really, it is finding your tribe and being willing to ask questions and really be a student of the game. There is something that you can learn from everyone around it, whether it's sharpening your communication. I agree with Phoebe, especially on rugby tackling. I still rugby tackle, and when I was hired by Brad Childress for the Atlanta Legends, he actually had me as the tackling specialist. And so I started in rugby before football. So that was foundational to me. And I still credit my rugby root, like my football success, to my rugby roots, because I knew how to tackle anybody, anytime, any place, anywhere. And if you've seen me play flag, like I did yesterday, I still do it. I definitely had the most tackles in the game. I don't think that was the goal, but they were mostly dudes, so it's okay. They deserved it. But really be a student and be hungry and find ways to be around the game. Volunteer for camps. And like I said, find your tribe, people who are not afraid to build in information. Like we say on defense, there's no secrets on defense. There are secrets on coaching, right? We all know that, because if they're going against you, you don't want to give them your stuff. So you got to find the ones who will bring you into the fold and help you elevate.
So well said. And thank you for that. I think that's really tangible too, especially for those listening in. So thank you so much for your time. And then we'll turn it back to our other panelists for
You're so welcome. Bye, everybody. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Bye,
You're welcome. I'm so sorry. I love you, Phoebe.
Love you. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Yeah, so Phoebe, would you like to comment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that first off, don't be afraid to go out there and put yourself out there. You know, not being afraid to fail and reaching out. I mean, I like to think of it, I'm no worse off or better off if someone says no. So just go for it. And then the second part of that would be having belief in yourself. It's really hard for someone else to believe in you and fully buy into you if you don't actually believe in yourself. And I found through experience, once you believe in yourself, you can build on that confidence and you can really understand the value that you bring to an organization. But if you kind of follow that line, definitely always believe in yourself, and take a chance. You never know what someone's going to say on the other side of it.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And Tara?
Yeah, definitely well said. You know, I think that's it. You know, in my case, you know, I've definitely been a woman who's the only woman in a lot of different situations and defied the odds in a lot of situations. No one's told me that I can't. They may have, but I'm still going to go and move forward and be the best that I can be and surprise them and, you know, overachieve and then, you know, put myself in a position where, yeah, they're talking about you because this happened and you just, there's going to be rejection. There's going to be a lot of it and it's going to be hard on the ego at a certain point. But you know what? You're only stronger if you get back up. If you stay down, then you've lost and you've let them win. So don't do that because you know your worth and appreciate your worth. Be really assertive in what you want and you will get it.
Yeah, don't let that imposter syndrome come out of nowhere because you definitely deserve to be in the spot that you are in today. And I really hope that everyone listening in has taken these last key pieces of advice with them so that they can start looking into potential opportunities. And I think really just knocking down those doors and maybe shooting that email to the person who you've looked up to as a coach in the field to say, hey, I'm interested in maybe shadowing in a day. Maybe you should do that. I think this is a perfect way, perfect segue into that by hearing our panelists. So thank you so much, Emily.
Yeah, I just want to extend my thanks as well. I know that you guys have put in so much time and effort into this weekend, and we appreciate it so much. I want to extend another thank you to all of our participants today. It's awesome having so many people from all around the world participating in our little event. It feels really cool. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming out. Thank you again to our panelists. Hopefully the first of many Women in Football Careers weekends. But yeah, I just thank you. I'm very thankful right now.